has he taken this as far as he can? Does he need to think of new ideas? Or do they need quite a lot of cash now injected into the squad? Well, Vitushan, it is a bad night for the English clubs in the Champions League. Both have gone out. There are no more English clubs left in the Champions League once again at the semi-final stage. I say once again, obviously Man City won it last year. We do have English representation, though, in the form of Jude Bellingham and Jadon Sancho. God bless them both. Fortunately, in either sides of the draw. So maybe they'll meet in the final and we can take some kind of moral victory. I don't know if that still works or not. But high drama, particularly at the Etihad. Manchester City won, Real Madrid won. That's where we start, of course. 4-4 on AG. In old money, Manchester City would have won it on golden goals. No, they would have won it on away goals, rather. I'm getting the goals mixed up. But that's out the window now. So Real Madrid won 4-3 on penalties. My goodness. Vish, was this a case of plucky old underdogs Real Madrid being a bit canny and a bit clever again, using all that lovely experience they have? Or was it a case they got a bit fortunate, they just had to be very stodgy, and Man City couldn't quite find it, and it was a bit of a smash and grab?
Well, Real Madrid, 14 Champions League, European Cups. Yeah. House always wins. House always wins.
That's what we've come to expect with football. Yeah,
there is. You're right about the plucky underdogs thing, because it's strange seeing the white. Oh, obviously they weren't in white, but they played like this last week, and again this week. The idea of Real Madrid playing on the counter, because look, we just can't keep up with them, and then they were countering to such a degree that they worked out probably about the third or fourth time either Rodrigo or Vinicius decided to try and skin Kyle Walker that they can't do that, and then they probably worked out right. If we go to penalties, he has to stay in the centre circle with the rest of them.
Indeed. Yeah, we'll nullify
him.
We'll nullify it that way, and we'll be able to, we won't be hurried by Phil Foden and all the other players, of course, trying to close the bed. I mean, look, it was an extraordinary game of football. Both teams have immense quality in there, particularly Manchester City, of course. But you're right, to see Real Madrid surrender possession like that and really play, I mean, it was like they were Roman soldiers, with the old shields up and down and over their heads at times. They were so compact, and 11 men behind the ball so often. You don't often see that, and that shows you the respect they have and the fear, quite frankly, of Manchester City. And Real Madrid going through, that is a huge boost for the other three teams in the competition, because Manchester City, and they're out, but I don't think anybody would disagree with this. Manchester City is still the best side in Europe for my money. Without a doubt, of course. Yeah. And it showed. And yet Real Madrid, just like in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. Real Madrid find a way.
Old money finds a way. Yeah. To be fair, it was a very entertaining game, because it was that weird thing where neither team tried to cancel out what the other team does well. Maybe Real Madrid to a point, because they set themselves up quite deep, but it was like they were operating on, obviously they were operating on different sides of the pitch, but they were just going about it in their own way. It was, however little Real Madrid had the ball, it was kind of confined to possession, was confined to their best ball players. And whenever City had the ball and they were kind of trying to find these openings in, Real Madrid's back line, there were moments where, I thought Grealish played quite well. Yeah. Obviously, Doku came on and did well, replacing him. Foden was particularly busy. Haaland aside, you could say that everyone kind of did their bit, or what you'd expect of them. It just didn't quite work out. And it was hard to say that, could Man City have done anything differently? Well, beyond get another goal. No, not really.
Kevin De Bruyne could have put that chance away, couldn't he?
Well, that was the one.
I mean, you look back at that now.
Yeah, but you kind of thought it at the time.
Well,
really,
I did.
Because
I disagree. I didn't. I thought to myself, oh, that's annoying. They're now going to have to carve out another chance. They may have to grind them down in extra time, but surely they're still going to find it. I thought they'd give them the old 1-2. When they score the equaliser, I thought the second one's going to come soon. And then when it doesn't, you think, oh, okay. I mean, again, the way the game took shape, Real Madrid played it pretty well in that they got their goal on the break. That's what they were set up to. And then basically 11 men behind the ball, push them out wide, and we'll surround Haaland in the centre and all the rest of it. You could see it, and you don't blame them for doing that. They're through. I think that's it. With a little part of you thinks, come on, Madrid, you could show a little bit more here, but actually, it's a great lesson in stay in the tie. You stay in the tie, you've always got a chance. I know it's a daft thing to say, it seems bleeding obvious. But they knew if they just kept doing what they were doing and you had a little dash of luck in there, you're in the tie, and you're alive. I mean, there was a moment, I forget who it was galloping down the right, and that was the one you sort of referencing when Kyle Walker snuffed him out. When Bellingham was square, and if he lifted his head up, he could have got it in there. That would have been another kind of breakaway. But the fact that Real Madrid were all camped out so deep, but they were just pushed back by Man City. And yet, because of that, Man City didn't really create too much. They were reduced a lot of times with speculative long-range efforts. Yeah.
Which is why I just to go back a couple of points, like it's why I think that De Bruyne miss on 82, 83 minutes was so important because actually the equaliser itself was very lucky. The way in which it falls to him, and also they didn't actually create too many clear-cut chances in the box.
No, they didn't.
And so when you get that, you're like, God, you've just got to be more clinical there. And of all the people you want it to fall to, I mean, Kevin De Bruyne is the guy, really.
Oh, beautifully taken,
yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing that you should credit, I suppose, specifically Ancelotti with, is the respect his players have for him, because those are big name players, and they're basically happy to just do shuttle runs for 120 minutes. And that is a hard thing to instill in players who are so used to having the ball and want to express themselves in that way, but also reflective of the fact they're playing Man City. And obviously there was a lot of luck involved. I don't think we can get away from that. And regardless of Real Madrid's history in the competition, Man City will probably look at that game and think, genuinely don't know what more we could do. Maybe 117 charges, but other than that, who knows what more we could have done. But yeah, like obviously a bit, a lot of luck. And as you say, the other three teams in the competition will be glad for Real Madrid's presence, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah, indeed. It makes it more absurd, doesn't it? Yes, I mean, the goal that Manchester City score, that was perhaps the only time when the ball did drop for them, really. And on another day, Rudiger does get that away. But, I mean, it shows you the fine margins. But the fact is, though, yes, Real Madrid got luck in the sense that one of the ones that De Bruyne or whoever pings doesn't go in, which we see him do a lot in the Premier League, even, in the Champions League as well. But that's it. They didn't manage to create many clear-cut chances because Real Madrid set their stall out in such a fashion. And it was, the players were dead on their feet by the end of the game. They were, you could see they were absolutely.
Oh, but don't think I didn't notice when Bellingham was blowing out of his arse. Don't think I wasn't worried.
Exactly. Yeah.
Both the England boys scored their penalties, by the way. Just put that in there.
Yeah. Don't worry. Duly noted. Yeah. I mean, Real Madrid have played 8 extra times in the Champions League, which is the joint most. They've won 6 of the 8 they've played. Again, it shows you that experience, but the experience, when you say that those players really like playing for Ancelotti and they'll do the shuttle runs and all that for him, a lot of those players will remember what happened in the semi-final last year when they got absolutely hammered. So Ancelotti would have said, right, listen to me, lads. Listen, okay?
Have a puff on this and listen to me.
Exactly, yeah. We're all going to watch this video. I know I said at the time, forget about it and never think about this again. We're all going to have to go back to the real dark place, and then we're going to come out and it'll be lighter than light, because you need to have focus. You need to be so switched on. And it is incredible that, a couple of players on yellows and so on, that the focus they had. I mean, Danny Carvajal, he has Grealish to deal with, who I thought played pretty well, actually. I did okay.
Yeah.
And then Docker comes on. And you think to yourself, go on, Ben. Now, I know Doku did something which Grealish didn't really do in that. He just thought, you know what, I'm just going to skin him, get to the byline and smash it across, and that's where the goal comes from.
Yeah.
Grealish, who I thought looked, he did okay. He is a touch predictable, though. You just show him inside and then he will pass it back. But, I mean, that's the ball retention that Man City do, I think.
Yeah, he's more of a recycler, isn't he?
Yes, exactly.
Which is what they
Not retention,
actually,
recycle,
Yeah, I thought they went about it the right way when he was on, and then they made the change, and there was a change of tactic within that change. So, yeah, it all kind of, again, everything kind of made sense. It's just, that's just how it goes.
What do you think of them taking off Erling Haaland and bringing on, Alvarez? I sort of understand why they brought on young Julian, but Erling Haaland's only had 2 shots on target across the 2 games. You'd think to yourself that you would want him on the pitch if something was going to drop. They didn't seem to be in danger of much going up the other end, I suppose. I suppose you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously an accomplished penalty taker as well. Yeah. And yeah, there was that. I suppose when, if you look at it, when Haaland's playing in a game which is a bit more stretched, he's basically occupying 2 centre-backs, isn't he? Because of this, the stature of the bloke and the way he moves off the ball. When there's more space, he's basically not taking out. He's got one defender with him, and he's got another defender looking over his shoulder, essentially. And when the game is more condensed in the final third, I suppose then it kind of doesn't matter that he's playing, does it?
But then if you are going to just put balls into the box at times, there was a lot of crosses. Surely he's the most likely candidate to get on the end of one of them.
I mean, but they did try that to a point.
Well, I suppose maybe Guardiola's thinking, well, we're going to try something different now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's you're chasing a goal, and the most productive striker in the last 3 years is one of the most productive strikers if you throw Kane in there over the last 3 years, including this season. You kind of logic dictates that you'd leave him on, but yeah, very strange, very strange. Obviously, there's a lot been said recently about his how poor his build-up is, or rather his build-up play and stuff like that. I suppose he didn't necessarily need that today, did he? Because there was so much happening around him. He didn't need an extra cook. He needed something to eat. Is that a thing? Yeah. He needs something to eat.
A meal, if someone's not there to eat it, it's pointless serving up a meal.
Exactly, yeah.
You do need that. But you mentioned he's accomplished penalty taker. I mean, they could have done with him, I suppose, although the man who replaced him, Alvarez, obviously scored and knows his way around shootouts, being an Argentinian international player. Let's talk about the penalties then. So it goes to pens, and you think, well, it's a tough one to call because both have got quality in there. Both have got, I say both have got decent keepers. I mean, of course, in Real Madrid's goal, they've got, at times, their third choice keeper. Who's there? Courtois is injured. Kepa was on the bench for this game, who's been deputising for Courtois. But in he goes. And, it's him and some sort of strange penalty taking that takes them through. I mean, I want to go straight to Bernardo Silva, quite frankly.
Yeah.
This is what... See, people, that's a strange penalty. That's what happens when you put it down the middle, but you don't try to convince the goalkeeper that you're not going to put it down the middle, you see? Because how many times do we see penalties get whacked down the middle, or not even whacked? We see Harry Kane take 1 or 2, where it's that side foot where it looks like you're going to open your body, or you're going to whip it, or stick it to the keeper's left, and you actually then side foot it down the middle and you completely fool him. Bernardo Silva, maybe because he was waiting for his own fans to give him the ball, I don't know. But it looks like he's like, right, put the ball down. I'll just run up and just sort of, he'll probably dive, won't he? Oh, actually. And then it looks utterly absurd.
Yeah, but to score a penalty down the middle, you need the back catalogue of hitting the corners, don't you? So when Harry Kane does it, there's a sense of like, right, where's he scored most of his penalties? He scores them mostly to the keeper's right, feigning to go, kind of closing himself off at the last minute, which means that you give basically the keeper has to commit one way or the other, which is what opens up the middle. Whereas someone like Bernardo Silva, doesn't necessarily have a back catalogue of penalties is just like, yeah, you need a bit more chronology here. Like you really need to sell.
Yeah, which is what I don't think he did. I think he seemed to be in a rush, and I think I mean maybe that came into it because he was waiting so long. Maybe I'm looking into it. I don't know, but
I don't think he was waiting. I think you're right. It's pressure. I mean, it's also what happens when you leave your controller dormant for a penalty, and it just comes up and kicks you down the middle.
It was a bit like that. It really was. That's such a good sound. Yeah, you tell your mate, pause it, I'm going out, I'm just nipping to the loo. Yeah. And you walk back in and you just see that one and you think, you knobhead. That's exactly what's happening. But then, on the sort of flip side of that, when you say, obviously, the two English boys who scored, Foden and Bellingham, neither were brilliant penalties. I'd like to think Bellingham was composed and really sold the other corner to
he was looking at Ederson, which made me think he sold it. Yeah.
So I think that, whereas Foden wasn't. Foden just went up, and it depends which angle you look from, which is why I always like to see the replay from over the shoulder of the taker, because that's when you really see what they were doing. So it looked like he walked up and just whacked it in the corner, whereas actually his was fairly nonchalant, and it wasn't really that far in the corner. If the keeper had guessed right, then he would have gone there. But the fact is, he scored, so we won't sort of focus too much on that. But
well, the thing to mention here about mentality that we talked about with Real Madrid is they missed the first penalty. Like Luka Modric of all people missed the first penalty.
That's right. Yeah.
And that I actually thought that was a killer. I thought that was a moment actually, because someone with all that experience who's seen and done the things that he's done and seen, you just thought, right, this is a banker, so you're off the mark here. That's saved, and you're like, wow, okay.
Which is why the Bernardo Silva takes the stuffing out of them. The Bernardo Silva penalty.
100%. Yeah.
Potentially, again, it's that strange kind of, what? And then they're kind of sort of playing catch up from there, and then Antonio Rudiger, of all people, hammers home the winning penalty after Ederson had beautifully slotted his way. I mean, talk about nonchalant. He's walked up and thought, I better just stroke this in the corner and hurry up and I'll try and save the next one. It was incredible stuff from him. But they're out, and Real Madrid now face Bayern Munich in the semi-final. I mean, it is a classic Champions League tie. And yet, there does seem to be... I think it's just because Man City have gone out, really. I don't think I'm surprised to see Bayern in the semi-final, despite them not really doing that well in the league this season. I think the shock is Man City going out, really. For me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like at the start of the season when Bayern Munich signed Harry Kane, certainly to my mind, I was like, this feels like a missing piece of a Champions League run.
But there was another missing piece. And obviously the way they've... In the shape of... There was another missing piece in the shape of Eric Dyer.
What was his name? There he is. Man of the match tonight, I think.
Get him on plane.
Yeah. Let him go in the crowd and fight whoever he wants. He's earned that tonight. Get in there.
I'll tell you what. Let's
can all over someone's face.
Oh dear. Bayern won, Arsenal 0-3-2 on aggregate. I mean, a predictable result and a predictable performance really from Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like the match that we can really, really dissect, because I think there was a point in that first half, maybe about halfway through the first half, so like 23, 24 minutes, when Bayern started kicking it up and you're like, right, okay, Arsenal have had their bit with it. It's been quite a bitty game in midfield, not much space for either team to really work with, but then Bayern kind of broke through and get a few things, and you kind of thought, well, actually, yeah, so Arsenal will get their turn, because sometimes in those kind of ties you kind of have it and give it back, and there's almost an exchange of pressure periods, really. It's certainly because of the quality of ball players on the field as well. And then the second half basically played out exactly like the Villa game on the weekend, where Arsenal seemed just drained, and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich slowly were like, oh, hold on, we can step forward a bit more here, more. And suddenly, like, Konrad Loma, who had a brilliant game, is just like, tearing through midfield on his own. Really strange. Like, and I think that's probably what's going to disappoint Arsenal fans the most, is the predictability.
Yeah,
of it,
exactly.
Despite the fact they've been excellent, for most of the season.
Yeah, what did you think of Arteta's tactics? We talk about Real Madrid kind of playing as a unit and being solid, and making sure the centre of the pitch and and in front of their boxes there's no gaps. You can understand that. Did you feel some were saying that Arteta was too kind of obsessed with trying to just get control and actually didn't really think about how to score any goals, to the detriment of having a bit of quality up top and a bit of the sort of, I don't know, I say swashbuckling, maybe that's a bit over the top, but having a bit of the attacking oomph that we've seen Arsenal produce this season?
I don't know. I didn't really see that. I think you kind of, when you say control, I immediately think of Jorginho. But he played, Martinelli started out wide left and clearly had a remit to, run at Kimmich. And there were a couple of times he did all right. And I suppose mostly there was, certainly on his side, he was more worried about Leroy Sané. And similarly, Saka was doing as much as he could.
Do you think he was worried about what happened in the first leg when Bayern, a number of times in that first half at the Emirates, they broke through quite easily, which led to a couple of goals? Do you think Arteta was like, right, I was talking about Real Madrid just staying in the tie. If you stay in the tie, you've got a chance. Do you think he was too focused on that and seeing, okay, we'll stay in the tie, we'll make sure that we just lock it down and then hope for something? We just kind of hope that our quality was kind of come through, rather than trying to formulate a plan of, right, we go in there and we're going to bloody win this, and this is how we're going to win it.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I don't think so, really. Because, actually, because you've mentioned the first leg, they lost this tie in the first leg. There's no doubt about that. Right. They let Bayern Munich straight back into it. But, yeah, I didn't get that impression today watching them. What I did see was a side who just look a bit knackered, and it kind of reiterates that, Arteta has spent a lot of money putting together what looks on paper, a good squad, a very good squad. But evidently, there's, he trusts so few of them.
Yeah.
Which is fine, managers do that all the time. But there comes, we're in a situation now where we're in April, they've tailed off because people look knackered, not least Saka in particular. And I think what is interesting about that is you kind of go through, you think back to various points in the season where he's kept his key players on for unnecessarily so, like when games have been won, after 70 minutes and keeping them on, Saka in particular. Yeah. And I think it's important to say that's something that Arsenal fans were perceptive of at the time. This isn't just them thinking, well, everyone looks knackered and God, we should have rotated a bit more. This was something that people were talking about back in, October, November time. Looking ahead to these kind of nights when you really need everyone, as close to top form as possible. I actually think that, probably Bayern Munich just did a number of them, really. I think it's, we talk about the midfield thing, and I think it's important to know that Musiala, Lima, and Goretzka, the three of those, they didn't start on the weekend, in part because of the situation in the league. And they looked much better for it.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think if you're an Arsenal fan now, you would feel really deflated. There was the temptation after the Villa game to feel that, of course, in the manner of the performance and how the game finished, and Villa, really taking it to them in the second half and looking a bit better. And you think, okay, things can happen like that in a season. You can have the odd blip. Villa are a good side. Blah 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 blah. When this happened, Arsenal, I thought probably shaded it in the first half. And again, they are playing against Bayern Munich, who, yes, they're not. It's not a vintage Bayern side, and they're not. They're going to finish second at best in the Bundesliga this season for the first time, goodness knows in how long. But it's still a huge game. But they did go out with a whimper ultimately. And when Bayern score, Arsenal never looked like... I think that's the thing that would drive me mad if I was an Arsenal fan. It's the inevitability of it. It just was never going to happen. With Manchester City, you thought, right to the end, come on, they've got a chance here. And obviously, far more often than not, that does happen. And that is a complete anomaly. It's the predictability of it and the same old feeling. And you look at what Arteta's done with this Arsenal side. He's done a great job, absolutely. But I just wonder, and perhaps with that point about you say with their starting 11 and maybe 3 or 4 other subs, it's has he taken this as far as he can does he need to think of new ideas, or do they need quite a lot of cash now injected into the squad? Because you know what it's like. You look at the sides around them. How much money. Bayern don't normally spend the kind of Premier League type money, but they did on Harry Kane. We know the millions that Real Madrid have splurged over the years. You look at the other side of the draw, Paris Saint-Germain as well. You go back to the Premier League, Manchester City. I know Liverpool haven't spent as much as Manchester City, as they often like to remind everybody, but they've spent a fair few quid. And I know Arsenal have as well, but I just, Stan Kroenke was apparently at the match this evening as well. Well, Stan, if you're listening, you know what you got to do. And why are you listening, for crying out loud? Get in touch with us.
Hello, Stan.
That's Vish, Stan. I mean, Arteta said in his post-match, "We have not been in this position for 14 years. There is a reason for it. We want to do everything fast forward, super quick. Those margins, sometimes they come from something else that we don't have yet." So, if we're aware, he's well aware, if you see what I mean. And again, I don't want to stick the boot in too much, because he's right. They've gone far in the Champions League. I don't think they've been hugely convincing in the Champions League, but they've got there to the quarterfinals, and they've only just gone out to a decent side and a regular. So it will be interesting to see if they can pick it up in the league. Still all to play for, but I don't want to start saying to Arsenal fans, "Well, what about what can they do next season?" You think, no, hang on. What about the here and now?
Yeah. And I think a lot of them would feel like that, surely, because as you say, the title race isn't over. Okay, it's City, and now now they can actually put their entire concentration into it after ticking off another FA Cup final, and they win this weekend. Well, there's that as well. But I suppose to go on the micro and macro aspects of what you were saying about Arsenal and feeling a bit dejected, the way they were fumbling around at the end there was tough to watch. Yeah. The quickly taken free kick, I was a fan of it, and then I thought, could they have given it to Odegaard to have a go, and then but that's me being wise after the event. I thought they made the right choice to play it quickly to Ben White, but then the corner, like Saka beat the first man.
I know. Arsenal have looked naive in the latter stages of competitions, and obviously last season in the latter stages of the league. And when Arsenal look naive, they look really naive. I don't know if you could say that about other teams so much. It seems to be quite obvious with Arsenal.
Well, it's not quite ingrained, is it? And I suppose that's part of it. You mentioned that they might need a lot of money to improve their squad. Essentially, improve the floor, isn't it? You're not necessarily raising. I mean, obviously, a couple of players could raise the ceiling, but you kind of want to raise the floor so your base level is higher.
Options off the bench, more options off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that comes through time, doesn't it? Because you end up, bringing players in. They're not all going to be, there'll be some duds in there. Like Liverpool's transfer activity over the last 5 years. It's not like it's been success after success after success. And you'd argue that actually it's been the younger players that have come through from their academy, which have covered for the areas where they've probably had one dud too many, such as midfield. But it comes, doesn't it, from like years and cycles of like transfer windows, doesn't it? It kind of, it's like every transfer window is a rinse, isn't it? And slowly you get to the, I suppose, to the squad you want. But it's just, I suppose it's the progress has been quick, and that's the impressive part of it. And you mentioned there about, does Arteta need to do something different? Well, I suppose you've got to remember he's learning as well. Isn't he? He's learning on the job.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I think that you don't want to be too harsh, because he is. I say he's done. He's doing a fantastic job. I just think that for Arsenal fans, it is that feeling of deja vu, and I just wonder if in the current iteration of this squad, and obviously every transfer window they're always going to bring in new players, and one or two will leave. Is this the ceiling right now? Now, who knows? They could go on to win the Premier League, but the smart money would be on Manchester City now. Let's be honest. But I am talking about one of the best club sides we've ever seen in England. So again, I'm reluctant to kind of be too harsh, but I just feel that frustration from Arsenal fans. I think we were doing the podcast earlier today. Obviously, Jim was on there. We were talking after and so on, and I just want to see him happy. That's all I want.
Yeah, I only want to see Jim happy.
Yeah. What about Arsenal Fan TV? You want to see them happy?
I don't think they're still going, are they?
Well, they're AF TV now. That's why you update your search engine. You know what you're putting in there.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you think of like other Arsenal fans, and you've got two choices: one who's a monumental bellend, and the other who got taken care of by American Special Forces. So, and that's it. Like those are the only two that spring to mind, other than Jim. But I just want Jim to be happy, and any other nice Arsenal fans.
I thought you were talking about when you started that. I thought.
Well, you know one of the people I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, you know both of them. Now.
I definitely know both of them. Yeah. One of them's a Peruvian player. So, dearie me. Have anyone checked on Piers Morgan, by the way? Have you seen his Twitter output, or just maybe something to treat ourselves to after the show? No. Well, look, when all's said and done, it is Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain versus Borussia Dortmund. 4 teams that we are very familiar with in the Champions League. Dortmund would be the one I think that few would have fancied going this far in the tournament. And when I say few, that's probably quite generous. They've not been particularly good in the Bundesliga this season.
Well, everyone was focused on the other side of the draw, weren't they?
They were.
So, yeah.
But I tell you what,
That's fine.
there were 32 goals in this season's Champions League quarterfinals. The most goals scored at this stage in any season in the competition. I think we can say that scrapping away goals has been a success.
Yeah, I mean, like the impulse when they made that decision was, what about the entertainment? And I think that's been disproved comfortably.
Well, I thought, what about the smaller teams? Now, like I say, nobody can make an argument for Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Paris Saint-Germain. You can even include Dortmund in that being small teams. But but
we are talking about the Champions League, aren't we?
We are talking about this.
These are like the cream of the crop in their country who come to play in this tournament.
Yeah,
it's not.
But
like
I think
we're still not even really talking about small teams.
We're not, no. But one of the reasons for keeping away goals is because that a smaller team can sneak through on away goals. Basically to take away all the kind of any elements of slight chaos that can creep in. That is always going to be better for the bigger teams. More substitutes, better for the bigger teams with the bigger squad. All these kind of things. 3 points for a win. You want to go back all the way, and so on. So but here we are. The holders are out. Dortmund are in the semi-final. The plucky underdogs, Real Madrid. The lovable Paris Saint-Germain. They're all there. They're all there. I like to just point out that there are 3 non-Super League originals in that final 4, which does seem quite odd to think that Bayern and Paris Saint-Germain, PSG in particular, weren't asked. But there we are. I shouldn't hark back to.
Do you think tomorrow they're all everyone who's got knocked out is gonna get an email from Juventus like,
oh yeah,
question mark? Huh?
Yeah.
How about now?
We'll let you have your away goals if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I who do you fancy for it then, Vish? That's the big question. Are we going to see Harry and Eric at Wembley? No less in the final.
I would genuinely fucking love that.
Do you know what I mean? Killing Mbappe, mugging him off in the final. That'd be awful, wouldn't it?
But genuinely, it'd be and not like genuinely for Eric Dyer. Yeah. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, what I'd love to see Harry. This is what football does to you. Here I am, getting all starry-eyed at the thought of Bayern Munich winning the Champions League at Wembley.
I know, yeah. At least the team you support.
Yeah.
They brought you a lot of joy. I have to find joy in Bayern Munich.
What, Fulham have brought me a lot of joy. I think you've seen more cup wins with Manchester United.
No, this season I'm saying.
Oh, I see what you mean. What?
Obviously, I don't mean overall. Are you mad?
Mind you, Fulham have won a league title much more recently than Manchester United, I suppose. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that meant a lot to you. Yeah.
It really did, actually. You absolute dickhead. How dare you? What are Portsmouth celebrating for? Who cares? Not a major trophy.
Exactly, yeah. Lovely drone shot, by the way, wasn't it?
There we are. We smoked him out.
That's how they got rid of that Arsenal fan.
Is that what it is?
That's how they found him, yeah.
Oh, dear. Yeah. So, go on then. Who do you fancy for it? Harry Kane and Eric Dyer or Jadon Sancho?
That'd be lovely as well. That generally would be lovely. Jeez.
Superb.
You know what would be quite cool?
Go on.
Well, actually, all the matchups would be quite cool, but imagine Dortmund Real in the final as well.
Why that one?
Jude. Well, Jude.
Against his old team, yeah. Do you know what I really did? Much like Jude Bellingham, I'd forgotten that he was there.
I thought you disbanded when I left. What are you still doing there?
After you buggered up the league on the last day when I couldn't play, I thought you guys had shamefully retired the badge and everything. But nice to see you again.
No, I mean, but seriously, I reckon Bayern Munich. Yeah,
you go for Bayern.
I kind of fancied him for it, especially given that because Leverkusen have won the league so early.
Yeah.
As early as they can. Bayern Munich can do what they normally do when they win the title this time.
That's
and
true.
They're through to the last stages and just rest a few players.
Yeah.
So
mind you, Real Madrid could win the league quite early, and then they could rest players as well. I mean, it wouldn't be as early as what's happened in Germany, of course, but you never. I think we can all agree that we don't want Paris Saint-Germain to win it.
But we want them to get to the final.
Yeah. I don't know.
This is a more likeable... Is it?
It's so confusing. It is so confusing. There we are, everybody. That's what football do to you.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.